Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. How are you all doing? I am going to wait for some people to join and then we will start the live. And if this is your first time joining, please let me know and so I can say hello to you, give you that special first time joining on my live. So I hope you guys are doing good. I wasn't around. I was out of the office all week last week, so I missed my weekly live. So I'm gonna try to make it up for you guys today. So I'm gonna go over certain things, and then I'm gonna take some questions. All right, are you guys doing okay? I know we're in really I call it crazy times, difficult times, hard times. And if you're watching the news, it's really, really hard to see the things that are happening to our fellow immigrants. Hello, Lion Bodhi. Good to see you again, too. Hello, Chigozie. Welcome. This is your first time joining. And I have somebody called, let's see, I'm trying to read TikTok. Otto says hello. Well, hello, Otto. Nice to see you. So, guys, there's been a lot of news, a lot of things happening, and it's almost overwhelming because it's hard to catch up on the news. So, for those who do not know me, and for those who are joining me for the first time, and those who are joining again, well, thank you for joining. My name is Ifama Odunlami. I'm an immigration attorney from the Odunlami law firm. Our office is in New Jersey, but we represent clients in all 50 states because immigration is federal law. As you can tell, I'm an immigrant, and my passion and the mission of my firm is to help fellow immigrants get legal status so that they can live here in the United States without fear of deportation and without fear of family separation. And that's our passion, that's our goal, and we do that. We work with we work and we do all we can for our clients within the limits of the law to make sure that we can get our clients their desired immigration goal. All right. So my firm primarily practices in family immigration, humanitarian immigration, and by that I mean U visa, T visa, SJIS, VAWA, and we also an asylum, and we also do removal proceedings. So if you know anyone or you are in, you have a case that aligns with any of this case types, please feel free to call my office 973-993-1900. I'm going to repeat this again, 973-993-1900. And so I want to go over some of the news, what's happening in the news, just to keep you abreast of some of the things that's going on. And I really I try not to go too deep into every single thing that's going on with immigration because some of them I believe is just part of this administration's shock and awe, just to get people anxious, get people frustrated. So I feel like talking about all of this sometimes just has the effect of making people um, anxious, So I'm going to talk about some things, that are in the news that I feel that it's important for people who are in the process of getting their legal status, or people who hope to be in the process someday. This is important for you to know, okay? So the one thing I want to talk about is the fact that we're getting a lot of news that F1 students are getting their F1s and their service status terminated, like without any real information. And it's not clear why the administration is doing this, but we're getting a lot of people calling us because their F1 status has been terminated. So, and of course, when the F1 status is terminated, what that means is that you're no longer eligible for any benefits associated with being a student, which means on-campus employment, practical training, or other F1 benefits. your service record is terminated, which means your I-20 is no longer valid, and you're required to depart the United States immediately or within a specified grace period, and failure to depart, of course, or maintain status could lead to arrest, detention, or deportation, and any associated F2, which is spouse or children, or M2 dependent records are also terminated. So while we're not quite sure what is going on, it's clear that this administration has decided to focus its efforts on removing people who are here on F1, right? And for some of the people who are being denied, they're being told that it's because they were part of a criminal activity, which the people I've spoken to have denied. Some of them are being told that they have been terminated because they have not been compliant with their status. And so the question is, what should you do? So I really recommend that people who are on F1 and have received this termination notice really should talk to an attorney, because in our office, what we're looking at is whether reinstatement is possible, right? Can that person be reinstated? Number two, we're also looking at whether there are other pathways that person can go to get maybe a legal status. We're also looking at, there's law firms that are filing lawsuits because some of this terminations really, it violates, in fact, all of these terminations violate due process because they're not given an opportunity to, the people who the F1s have been terminated don't even understand or know why they were terminated. And so I am aware that there's some lawsuits going on. So I think the best advice I can give you is to reach out to an immigration attorney that you trust and let them discuss what is happening, discuss your case, figure out if there's anything that you can do, So you want to make sure that you do this, because if your F1 has been terminated, you really are out of status. Okay, and being out of status in the United States has consequences. So please, this is something that you need to do. So we also want to talk about the latest news, and I'm going to read this out because I just got this. The administration has introduced measures to screen for anti-Semitic activity when granting immigration benefits. This includes monitoring social media posts and other behaviors that may be deemed anti-Semitic. The United States Citizen and Immigration Services will now consider such activities as grounds for denying immigration benefits. The only thing is the specific definition for what anti-Semitism is in this context remains unclear. So this has been raising concerns about among immigration advocates, because it's not clear what the rules are and what they consider anti-Semitic. So like we've been talking about social media, what you put out on social media, you want to be careful that nothing you're putting on social media is going to be misinterpreted, and of course, the administration has basically said that if you're taking part in any of the what you may call it, I'm losing my train of thought here. If you're taking part in any demonstration, right, they consider that a violation for F1 students, and even maybe for people who are trying to get legal status. So even though this may be something you want to fight, but at this point, and then especially for F1 students, it's really not worth it, because as a non-immigrant visa holder, you really don't have a lot of grounds. You don't have strong grounds to be able to continue to stay here. So it's best that you basically stay away from demonstrations, stay away from having any opinions on social media regarding whatever it is the administration is doing. Really, it's yes, we all understand that it violates First Amendment rights, but at this point, it's not clear what the courts will uphold. So until the courts have made a ruling on the corners of the First Amendment rights, especially with regards to non-immigrant visa holders, you really want to desist from any of these activities. That's just being risk averse, okay? And that's what I recommend. There's really nothing to be gained at this point by getting involved in activities with an administration that is basically flaunting all the rules of law. So let's talk about the fine that we just heard about this recently, that Trump administration is going to fine immigrants who are here without status and who have not self-deported. They're going to fine them $998 a day and seize their properties until they leave the country. Now, I'm going to call BS on that one, because how are they going to enforce that? I believe that this is part of the Trump administration's efforts to get people to self-deport. That's what it is. So clearly, they know that it's not easy to deport 11 million people like the president promised, and so they're trying to make you afraid. They're trying to fill you with fear so that you self-deport. Now, the CBP One app has now been converted to something called CBP Home, and basically they're asking you to register there so that you can register there and use that app to self-deport. And of course, all self-deportations will be credited to the administration. And I guess that's part of what this their tactics of creating their tactics of fear mongering. They're hoping that people will leave on their own. So let's talk about the latest news with regards to the IRS. The IRS has agreed to share tax information with immigration authorities. Now, when I heard that, I was a little baffled, to put it mildly, because immigrants are paying taxes without being required to pay taxes. Yes, they are able to pay taxes because they go to the IRS and ask for an ITIN number. So they don't have social security numbers for some of them, and they get an ITIN number that allows them to pay taxes into social security, into a system that they will not get any benefit from. So by agreeing to share information with immigration authorities, what's the consequence of that? People who have no legal status here are going to stop filing taxes. And in the past, IRS didn't share any information with anyone, and people were able to freely, do what they had to do with filing their taxes. But now it appears that, this is going to basically create a situation where people don't want to file taxes anymore if they have no legal status. So the agreement was made between IRS and USCIS, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. That was signed this past Monday, and it was made public in a court filing. But it's not clear when information sharing between the two agencies is going to start. And but what we have heard is that ICE officers can ask the IRS for information about immigrants who have final orders of removal or who are under criminal investigation. And this includes the crime of failing to leave the country after 90 days, which I guess they're considering a crime. So many pages of that document was redacted. So it's difficult to understand exactly what the IRS has agreed to share. All right. So that's that. So let's talk about best practices in light of all that is going on. And what should you be doing now? So the most important thing is it's crucial for immigrants to stay informed and proactive. You want to regularly monitor reputable news sources and official announcements from USCIS to remain aware of policy changes that may affect your status, okay? And then number two, it's important to consult with an immigration attorney. You want to seek personalized guidance to understand how new policies may impact your specific situation. So even though I come on here on live and I talk about things in general, I'm not giving legal advice because I don't know your particular situation, what my firm does when people come for a consultation is we screen you to see if there are other pathways that could be available to you, right? If the pathway that you're on is not going as fast as you would like it to go, or maybe you didn't even have a pathway. So a couple of days ago, I did a consultation, and this is really why it's important to talk to experienced attorneys. I did a consultation with this lady who'd been here in the United States since 1991 or so. And she came in, I'm not going to get too deep into the consultation of course, for confidentiality purposes, but she came in, I would say, without proper documentation, right? And some attorney encouraged her to lie about how she came in. And that's a no-no. As lawyers, any ethical lawyer will never, ever tell you to tell a lie and sign under the sign on the forms, which basically say that you're signing under the risk of perjury, that what you're saying is truthful. So if you have a lawyer who's telling you to lie, I'm going to tell you that that is not a lawyer you want to work with, because guess what happens? She is the one who's in trouble, not that lawyer. That lawyer has probably gone ahead to give people other wrong information, other bad advice. But because of that information, that lie she told, she continued to struggle until the current time. And she's seen many lawyers throughout this past 30 years and more. And nobody has ever been able to give her a pathway to be able to correct the mistakes she made, until we talked to her sometime a couple of days ago. And based on the questions I asked her, I was able to figure out that there was a pathway that was available to her, a pathway that would allow her to request forgiveness for the immigration violation and the immigration misrepresentation. And now she has a pathway that will allow her to live here, because she's been in this country all this time. She has children, she has a spouse, but all these years she has not been able to regularize her status because she got some bad advice. So it's important. I know that people think that they can game the system, but I'm going to tell you that sometimes, many times, the people who are giving you this information have nothing to lose. So you want to be careful about following the advice of somebody who is encouraging you to break the law. I had another consultation a few weeks ago. This person had, now a US citizen, had been given the bad advice to tell lies, and he told a lot of lies, was able to get his US citizenship. But now the lies he told are now preventing him from being able to file for his spouse, right? And now they're separated. He cannot file for her to come over to the United States because of the things he said in his immigration filing in the past. So it's really important, because there's a lot of people out there giving wrong information to immigrants. There's a lot of people there who don't know enough to be able to give advice. And in the end, it's the intended immigrant who bears the consequence of bad advice, bears the consequence of improper advice. So it's important to really understand what your situation is. And I tell people, talk to more than one attorney, because each attorney really knows as much as what they know. Sometimes by thinking outside the box, you're able to get something, and we've seen it many, many times in this office, where we have people who come here, they've lived in the United States for a long time, they've talked to several lawyers, and they have not been able to find a pathway, because they didn't ask the attorney or whoever it is that they talked to didn't ask the right questions. Because a lot of people don't know what pathways are available to them until you have somebody who's asking those questions. All right. So another important thing you need to do is maintain accurate records. You want to keep all your immigration documents, identification, and any correspondence you have with immigration authorities. You want to have them organized and you want to have them up to date. A lot of times when I do consultations, I'm asking people what happened in that case, and they don't know because either they don't have the paperwork, or the lawyer that they worked with didn't give them the paperwork, or the notario they worked with didn't give them the paperwork. Listen, that paperwork is your right. If somebody filed a petition for you, you should ask to get a copy. And before you submit any petition, you must review the petition, because it's you signing that that whatever was in there is what is accurate. So I'm gonna suggest that I'm gonna tell you guys again and again and again, you should not be signing documents that you do not understand. You should not, when you sign those documents, you want to get a copy of it. We had a client that we represented on an asylum matter, and when we took the case over, because she had already filed the asylum case, and we reviewed it because we needed to know what happened in the past to be able to get. She wanted to expedite the case, and we were able to. We told her we're going to assist her, but when we reviewed the case and went over what she had submitted before, she was shocked at what was put down. She said, "This is not what I told them." And so we had to tell her, well, if this is not what happened to you, we have to disclose it, and we have to tell them exactly what happened. And we're able to do that, and we got her asylum approved. We got her green card approved, and so in that case, she was lucky that we were able to retract that information and explain to the officer that this is not what she said, and this is actually what happened. So you want to make sure that you're reviewing your declarations. You want to make sure you're reviewing anything that you're submitting to USCIS. You want to make sure that it's accurate. You want to make sure the addresses you put in your applications are correct. You want to make sure the names of your family members are correct. All your kids should be in your application, because that creates a problem later on. So the other thing I'm going to talk about is be mindful of public statements. I think I just talked about it. With increased scrutiny on social media and public activities, you want to ensure that your public statements and online presence do not affect your immigration status. I've been talking about this for like at least over a year. I've been telling people, be careful what you put on social media. Things that you have online remain there. They don't go away. Anybody can access it. So you want to really be careful, okay? Now, the last thing I'm going to talk about with regards to best practices on how to stay, safe is really know your rights. I think many lawyers have done this know your rights seminars. Know your rights when ICE comes to your home. Know your rights when ICE comes to your place of work. Know your rights when ICE meets you on the street. I know that those know your rights seminars are working because the what do you call it? I don't remember his name. Tom. The border czar was complaining that those know your rights had made it difficult for them to deport people. So knowing your rights definitely helps. All right. So I just want to remind you guys, because I think there's a lot of news and a lot of negativity, a lot of negative information, which of course is making a lot of people anxious, worried. I spend a lot of time talking to people and talking them off the ledge. This is what I say, right? Think about it. What are you afraid of? What is the worst this administration could do to you? For a lot of people, they are afraid of being deported. They're afraid of being put in deportation proceedings. But did you know that being put in deportation proceedings may allow you to get a green card? There are reliefs available in deportation proceedings before an immigration judge that will allow you to get a green card. And those relief, that pathway is not available to you through USCIS. So for those people who have been in the United States for over 2 years, and you came in, with either a visa which is expired, or you came in, through the border, but you've been here over 2 years, the likelihood is you're going to be put, if you're detained, you're going to be put in removal proceedings. It's taking a long time to get through this process. So it's not like you're going to be grabbed from wherever you are and put on a plane, unless you have an order of deportation, which means you've already had your day in court, right? So, but if you have no order of deportation, being in immigration court is actually may not be a bad thing if you qualify for several pathways, like there's cancellation of removal. If you have a child or a parent who's a U.S. citizen or green card holder who might have filed an approved immigrant petition for you, there could be a way to get you out of immigration proceedings. So for some people, they should hope to be put in immigration proceedings because that's the only pathway that can get them a green card. So a lot of people are in limbo because ICE knows that, or USCIS knows that if they put them in immigration proceedings, they could have a pathway that could get them a green card. And so they leave them in limbo. The case is denied, but they're not in immigration. They're not in immigration court. So I think what you should think about when you hear all this news that make you anxious about your future here in America is, what is your situation, right? What is the worst that could happen if ICE comes after you? Are they able to deport you, without expeditiously, which could happen for some people, right? Or do they put you in removal proceeding, which allows you the opportunity to get a second bite at the apple of getting your legal status? So those are things you should think about, and those are things that you should talk to an attorney about, so that you're not living in fear. It's not fun just listening to the news and just being, anxious and angsty and just having this pit at the bottom of your stomach that just makes you feel like you want to throw up all the time. Okay. So information, knowledge is power. The more you know, the more you're able to plan for yourself and plan for your family. All right. So another thing I want to talk about is the fact that we're still in the business of winning green cards. My law firm and many immigration attorneys, we're winning our cases. We're still working as hard as we did before, working even harder because now we have to get caught up with the changes in the administration, the changes in policy. But the good thing is, immigration lawyers, we're all working together, right? And we're more determined than ever to make sure that we're working to assist our clients to get legal status so that they can live here and not be afraid of whatever policy is out there. Okay, so somebody says, what about those who came to the U.S. under the Biden parole? Yeah, those people who came to the U.S. under the Biden parole, they are, yes, their ability to stay here is really, really, in question. I know there's a Supreme Court, not Supreme Court, there's I think it's a federal district court that ruled that the deportation of Venezuelans had to be paused, and there's a lot of lawsuits. That's one thing I can tell you. There are a lot of lawsuits, fighting this administration. There's the ACLU. They're private people fighting, filing lawsuits. So let's kind of wait so that we can figure out what the courts are holding. As we've told people, we tell our clients that we're not recommending people travel if you don't have a green card. Even people, or if you're not a U.S. citizen, even people who are green card holders, where you really need to be careful because apparently there are lots of green card holders who are being subjected to additional scrutiny at the CBP at the border. And what we tell green card holders is this: you must remember that as a green card holder, as a permanent green card holder, if you have 10 years green card, you will be let into the United States. And the thing to remember is USCIS may ask you, CBP may ask you to sign a form called Form I-407, which basically says that you're abandoning your green card. There's no reason in this world for you to sign that, because if you sign it, they will not let you in and you will no longer have a green card. So regardless of whatever threats are being put your way, refuse to sign that form I-407, and they will let you in. They may put you in removal proceedings, which means that you have to go before an immigration court and fight for your right to keep your green card. But that's a better place to be in than being deported because you filled out the form I-407. And if you're a U.S. citizen, well, some U.S. citizens are being harassed too at the border, but because you're a U.S. citizen, of course, you have to be allowed in. And they may ask you for your phone. They may ask to go through your things, which you have a right to refuse to have them go through your things. But of course, that could lead to more. Could lead to you being detained for longer. But bottom line is, if you're a U.S. citizen, if you're a green card holder, you really want to make sure you're not signing the form I-407. If you are a non-immigrant visa holder, you really should not be leaving the United States at this point because that nobody can guarantee you that you will be let back, even if you have an advanced parole document. Okay. Now, of course, I'm cognizant of the fact that a lot of people are leaving the United States and coming back without an issue. Yes, and it seems like what we're hearing is those who are having problems. But since we cannot guarantee anyone that they will be allowed to come back in, if you're an immigrant, if you're a non-immigrant visa holder, we're suggesting that you don't go out, right? If you're a green card holder, and you need to travel, just stay true to not signing the form I-407. If you're a conditional green card holder, which means you have a 2-year green card, that's risky as well, because if your conditional green card is terminated or denied, right, the I-751, which you would have applied to remove the conditions, if it's denied while you're outside the United States, you will not be allowed to come back in. So let's see. Let me answer some questions. Cedar says, you said you can't fight for people with 204C. Boys, that's true. That's actually not true. Just because USCIS says it's a 204C, which is a sham marriage, does not mean it's true. We've been very successful with some 204C cases, right? We actually had one where our client had been in this country for over 20 years, and multiple petitions were denied because there was an alleged sham marriage, which was not true. Because what happens is USCIS will typically just rely on the U.S. citizen or the green card holder that says that the marriage is a sham marriage, right? And of course, the burden of proof is on the immigrant to show that it's not a sham marriage, and you can prove that. So if USCIS is just making a ruling that this is a 204C case, that's a sham marriage, you have the opportunity to explain some of the discrepancies. And for a lot of people, it boils down to, like I said, the word of one person, or maybe USCIS investigation shows that you have multiple addresses. Those are the things that trigger them into thinking it's a 204C, right? And multiple addresses is easily explained because immigrants tend to have multiple addresses. Sometimes they'll use an address somewhere because they're afraid that they're going to be deported, so they use the address of a family member, but they really live somewhere else. Or maybe they don't do a change of address. That happens, Or it could be that you go for a marriage interview and your testimony is inconsistent with that of your spouse. And if that's the case, we've had notice of intent to deny based on inconsistent statements, and with the suggestion that it's a 204C case, and we've won it because when you get the two people together to explain why did you say this and why did you say that, a lot of times it's an error of misunderstanding the question, because all USCIS agents are not, skilled with the ability to ask questions that are not confusing. Because sometimes when I go for those interviews, I listen to the question and I know it's confusing because I don't understand it. I have to tell them, can you rephrase the question because it's misleading, number one, or it's confusing. So a 204C finding is not you should fight it, you know. All right, let's see. So somebody says, my friend's visa is revoked as he had a reckless speeding ticket 3 years ago. What do you suggest for his situation? That's actually quite surprising to me. So I'm going to suggest your friend talk to an immigration lawyer because a reckless speeding ticket is not typically a reason to revoke a visa. And of course, I'd like to know what type of visa it was. So my advice to you is without more information, I can't answer that. So have your friend talk to an immigration lawyer. If your friend is interested in reaching out to us, you can call us at 973-993-1900. So Mr. Janice says, are there chances to deny the marriage even if it's a genuine marriage? What should anyone do if their marriage is canceled? Mr. G. Nee, of course, USCIS believes that most marriages are sham marriages, right? And is that the truth? I don't believe so. So, like I said, the burden of proof is on the immigrant and their spouse to show that it's a legitimate marriage. So there are certain things called red flags, you know, and those red flags typically will send USCIS, you know, hurtling down a rabbit hole. And I've talked about this before. If you don't live together, that's a big one. USCIS seems to believe in a traditional marriage. They want you guys to live together. They want you guys to have joint finances. They want you to they're suspicious of people who have a big age a big age gap. So sometimes cases are denied because USCIS just thinks they're red flags or they're just not satisfied that it's a legitimate marriage. And so if that marriage is canceled, I typically advise you to refile. And when you refile, look at the reasons that you were denied and make sure you have an explanation for that. All right, so let's see. I'm going to look at Facebook, see if I can answer a few questions. So somebody says, once USCIS grants a 212 waiver for a CIMT in conjunction with the I-485 and is approved, and if you were put in removal for the waived CIMT, do you need another adjustment waiver in court again? You know, peace on earth. I think this is a really complicated question and I would need to get more information. Give us a call, 973-993-1900. I need to know more, okay? Captain Kirk says, can someone who's out of status adjust using EB5 without leaving? Captain Kirk, no. If you're out of status, employment pathways are unavailable to people who are out of status. That's just it. All right. So Marcel says, I'm married to an American citizen in St. Lucia. I am married to an American citizen. Okay, I presume you're in St. Lucia, your wife is in the United States, and it's been a year since we heard anything from immigration. So Marcel, it seems to me that your consular processing, so your wife is in the United States and she's filed for you, you're in St. Lucia. Yes, it takes a while. It's taken at least a year and a half for you to get your green card approved. And I'm not sure what stage of your case that you're in, but I can tell you, yes, it takes a while. Like for some people, even when they're documentarily qualified, just getting their interview can take over a year. Just getting scheduled for an interview can take over a year. So this process is not a process. It doesn't move fast. But if you are concerned about the period of time it's taken, you should reach out to your attorney. They can do an inquiry. You know, if I were your attorney, I would want to know, you know, what stage you are. Is it the I-130? Has the I-130 petition been approved? Recently, it's been taking at least a year to get the I-130 approved. So it really depends. But I wouldn't worry unduly because really it's a slow process, okay? So Famara says, can someone adjust status under K1 visa, but you got married within 90 days, but can file your case after the I-94 gets expired? That's a dangerous thing to do, Famara. But I'm happy to know that you got married within 90 days. But I will urge you to go ahead and file your case as soon as possible, okay? All right. Let's see. It's kind of hard to get some of these questions. Let's see. I'm looking for. All right. So, Mr. Genie, you have a lot of questions. You say you have a genuine girlfriend, but you're scared to initiate a marriage. Seeing this denial news, do you recommend to postpone? No, I don't recommend to postpone. If you're in a bona fide marriage and your girlfriend is a U.S. citizen, get married, file your papers. As long as it's a bona fide marriage, don't be worried about that, because not filing makes you a sitting duck, because that means you have no status and you don't have a pathway. You're just sitting there. If they were to detain you, there's nothing filed that could be used as that could be used to argue for you. Okay, so I'm sure your girlfriend is anxiously waiting for you to propose. So go ahead. Okay. All right. Let's see if we have any other questions. All right. Okay. All right. I think that's all the questions I see. Somebody said, how long does I-601 takes? It's taking a while. I mean, sometimes we file an I-601. I think we filed a couple that we got a response like relatively quickly. And when I say relatively quickly, I think within less than 3 months. But our 601 could take a while too. Let's see. All right, I'm looking at TikTok to see if I can pull up a couple questions. So Sandy says, what about those who came in through parole and have pending EADs? Sandy, if you came in within 2 years, you can be subjected to expedited removal. That's the policy for the Trump administration. Of course, it's unfair, but that's a policy. So what I would suggest is, do you have another pathway? Maybe that might be something that could help. All right. Mohammed says he has a VAWA I-360 pending. Can he send an amended personal declaration? Can he add his newborn child while case is pending? Child was born out of the divorce and it was with girlfriend, marriage not licensed, city. So Mohammed, you have a lot of very detailed questions, and I can't answer this question because I don't know enough about your case, and I don't want to give you advice without having all your information. So I'm going to answer some of them because they're general. Can you send an amended personal declaration? Of course you can. Can you add your newborn child while the case is pending? You will get an opportunity to add that child at some point, but if you want to, there's nothing that says you can't. All right, so I think that's pretty much it. So Love Center, I'm going to answer this one question and then I'm going to head out. Love Center says, my dad is in Africa and is not really well. He has requested I see him as his only son. I have my green card. I came in September 2024. Can I go home and return without issues? So Law Center, honestly, the best thing I'm going to tell you is talk to an attorney so that they can measure your risks. If it's an emergency, you need to see your dad. That's a personal decision that you have to take. Okay. If I were to, advise you, I would be looking at stuff like, do you have any criminal issues? Have you been arrested? I want to make sure that you have a 10-year green card. If you have a 10-year green card, they will let you in, because you have a legal permanent residency. So, if you have a 10-year green card, it may be worth it to go see your dad, knowing that if you have any issues, you would be put in removal proceedings, but then you have a chance to fight it. So, I'm going to encourage you to talk to a lawyer and see, so that they can get all your details and be able to give you proper advice. So, guys, I'm going to run because I have a meeting at 4 o'clock. If you have any questions, I'm always trying to figure out what to talk about, what topics to discuss. Send us a DM and say, can you discuss this at the next live? Or if you have an immigration issue and you're looking for an ethical, trusted attorney, give our office a call, 973-993-1900. And remember, guys, there are multiple fake accounts, especially on TikTok. And I think there's one on Facebook. Please remember that do your due diligence. Look through this account and make sure it's my account. A lot of these accounts have no followers or very limited followers. So you want to make sure it's my account. And if anyone's asking you for money, please do not give them, because we won't be asking you money on DMs, okay? The best way to reach my office is to give us a call, 973-993-1900, or you can send an email to support@odunlamilaw.com. So it was a pleasure talking to you guys. I will try to do it again next week. Take care.